Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen that have joined us tonight. We're so happy that you've been able to join us for our Read to Me virtual book reading series. Thank you so much for being here. Tonight we are lucky to have Ms. Altra Witt as our reader, and I just want to give her the highest kudos award because I read in her bio that she is a teacher of all subjects of elementary school children. And I think that is fantastic. You must have a lot of fantastic stories about that.
Yes, ma'am. Miles and miles of pages of stories.
Woo, I can imagine. So kudos to you on that for sure. We're so happy to have you. Miss Altra Witt is going to be reading an essay from Sister Outsider called Poetry is Not a Luxury.
Yes, ma'am.
So before you begin, I just want to give a quick mention and let all of you literary minds know that we do have a bookstore inside of our building. So if you do ever stop by, you're running through town and you need some coffee and you need to peruse some books, make sure you stop in to Baines Books and Coffee right in the second stage building. So I hope you can stop by and do that sometime. But without further ado, Altra, I'd love to turn it over to you. Feel free to tell us a little bit about the book or why you've chosen it or anything like that, and I'll just let you launch into your wonderful reading.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I am happy and excited to be here tonight. And so thank you, Second Stage, for having me. And I am here in celebration in the month of March for women and also in celebration for Poetry Month. Tonight, I'm going to be reading a little excerpt from a book. It's called Sister Outsider by Altra Witt. And I hope that I'm saying her name correctly. And when I first saw this title, as I was looking through which book would be a great book for this opportunity tonight, I was intrigued by those two words in the title, sister, and all of the implications that come with that word. And then also outsider, and the implications that come with that word and how they could bridge together in this writing. And so as a woman and as a reader, I was automatically intrigued. And when I started looking through this modern day collection of essays and speeches, I found one that I thought we would all be able to really connect with and really identify with on a personal level. So I'm happy to be here tonight to share her work with us. The section of the book that I'm going to be reading is called Poetry is Not a Luxury. And this begins on page 37 of this text. And it says, the quality of light by which we scrutinize our lives has direct bearing upon the product which we live and upon the changes which we hope to bring about through those lives. It is within that light that we form those ideas by which we pursue our magic and make it realized. This is poetry as illumination, for it is through poetry that we give name to those ideas which are, until the point, nameless and formless, about to be birthed, but already filled. That distillation of experience from which true poetry springs birth, thought dream births concept, as feeling births idea, as knowledge births or precedes understanding. And so given that this book, I'm just going to take a moment, given that this book is a collection of essays and speeches, I really thought this one in particular is meant to evoke or awaken that a woman's desire intrinsically to think, to believe, to feel, and to ultimately live her best or most powerful life, given especially her placement in society. So that was the important part from the author. A lot about the placement of women in society and how we can blossom given that placement. And so I'll continue the reading. As we learn to bear the intimacy of scrutiny and to flourish within it, as we learn to use the products of that scrutiny for power within our living, those fears which rule our lives and form our silences begin to lose their control over us. For each of us as women, there is a dark place within where hidden and growing our true spirit rises, beautiful and as tough as chestnut, stanchions against your nightmare of weakness and of impotence. These places of possibility within ourselves are dark because they are ancient and hidden. They have survived and grown strong through that darkness. Within these deep places, each one of us holds an incredible reserve of creativity and power, of unexamined and unrecorded emotion and feeling. The woman's place of power within each of us is neither white nor surface, but dark. It is ancient, it is dark, and it is deep. When we view living in the European mode only as a problem to be solved, we rely solely upon our ideas to make us free. For these were what the white fathers told us were precious. But as we come more in touch with our own ancient and non-European consciousness of living, a situation to be experienced and interacted with, we learn more and more to cherish our own feelings and to respect those hidden sources of power from where true knowledge and therefore lasting action comes. At this point in time, I believe that women carry within ourselves the possibility for fusion of these two approaches so necessary for survival. And we come closest to this combination in our poetry. I speak here of poetry as a revelatory distillation of experience, not the sterile wordplay that too often the fathers distorted. The word poetry to me, in order to cover a desperate wish for imagination without insight. For women in particular, then, poetry is not a luxury. It is a vital necessity of our existence. It forms the quality of the light within which we predicate our hopes and dreams towards survival and change, first made into language, then into idea, then into more tangible action. Poetry is the way in which we give name to the nameless, so it can be thought. The farthest horizons of our hopes and fears are cobbled by our poems, carved from the rock experiences of our daily lives as women. As they become known to and accepted by us, our feelings and the honest exploration of them become sanctuaries and spawning grounds for the most radical and daring of ideas. They become a safe house for that difference so necessary to change and the conceptualization of any meaningful action. Right now, I could name at least 10 ideas I would have found intolerable or incomprehensible and frightening, except as they came after dreams and poems. This is not idle fantasy, but a disciplined attention to the true meaning of "it feels right to me." We can train ourselves to respect our feelings and to transpose them into language so they can be shared. And where that language does not yet exist, it is in our poetry, which helps to fashion it. Poetry is not only dream and vision, it is the skeleton architecture of our lives. It lays the foundations for a future of change, a bridge across our fears of what has never before been. Possibility is neither forever nor instant. It is not easy to sustain belief in its efficacy. We can sometimes work long and hard to establish one benchhead of real resistance to the depths we are expected to live, only to have that beachhead assaulted or threatened by those canards in which we've been socialized to fear, or by the withdrawal of those approvals that we have been warned to seek for safety. I want to repeat that part. As we have been socialized to fear, or by the withdrawal of those approvals that we have been warned to seek for safety, that need for approval that women often feel. Women see ourselves diminished or softened by the falsely benign accusations of childishness or non-universality, of changeability, of sensuality. And who asks the question, am I altering your aura, your ideas, your dreams, or am I merely moving you to temporary and reactive action? And even though the latter is no mean task, It is one that must be seen within the context of a need for a true alteration or change of the very foundations of our lives. The fathers told us, I think, therefore I am. And the Black mother within each of us, the poet, whispers in our dream, I feel, therefore I can be free. If I feel, therefore I can be free. Poetry coins the language to express and charter this revolutionary demand, the implementation of that freedom. However, experience has taught us that action is now, in the now is also necessary always. Our children cannot dream unless they live. They cannot live unless they are nourished. And who else will feed them the real food without which their dreams will be no different from ours? If you want us to change the world someday, we have to at least live long enough to grow up, shouts the child. Sometimes we drug ourselves with dreams of new ideas. The head will save us. The brain alone will set us free. But there are no new ideas still waiting in the wings to save us as women, as human. There are only old and forgotten ones, new combinations, extrapolations, and recognitions from within ourselves, along with the renewed courage to try them out. And we must constantly encourage ourselves and each other to attempt the heretical actions that our dreams imply. And so many of our old ideas disparage. In the forefront of our move toward change, there is only poetry to hint at possibility made real. Our poems formulate the implications of ourselves, what we feel within, and dare make real or bring to action or in accordance with our fears, our hopes, our most cherished terrors. For within living structures defined by profit, by linear power, by institutional dehumanization, our feelings were not meant to survive. Kept around us as unavoidable adjuncts or pleasant pastimes. This is a good one. Feelings were expected to kneel to thought, as women were expected to kneel to men. But women have survived as poets. And there are no new pains. We have felt them all already. We have hidden the fact, and that the same place where we have hidden our power, they surface in our dreams. And it is in our dreams that point the way to freedom. Those dreams are made realizable through our poems that give us the strength and courage to see, to feel, to speak, and to dare. If what we need to dream to move our spirits most deeply and directly towards and through promise is discounted as a luxury, then we give up the core, the fountain of our power, of our womanness. We give up the future of our worlds. For there are no new ideas. There are only new ways of making them felt, of examining what those ideas feel like being lived on Sunday morning at 7 a.m., after brunch, during wild love, making war, giving birth, mourning our dead, while we suffer the old longings, battle the old warnings and fears of being silent and impotent and alone, while we taste new possibilities and new strengths. And that ends the reading of that excerpt. And I wanted to just take a moment and maybe talk about it and get some feedback or some discussion going about poetry and the need for women to, or the opportunity to have and use poetry to express that feeling. And so at first, this was published in a magazine of female culture. It's called Chrysalis. And then another publication was The Black Mother Woman. Would anybody want to share anything about how that made them feel? Was there anything that stood out in that reading that maybe we could talk about a little bit tonight?
Altra. Thank you
Oh,
so
hey,
much.
how are you?
Thank you so much for that reading.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I appreciate her. It's almost like a revolutionary idea of not giving in to circumstances that our surroundings put us through, and that women need to be courageous, and that our lives are poetic. Everything we do, it is with a sense of poetry, and the resilience that we have. Um, and I had never really heard of Audre Lorde until like maybe last year, her poetry. And she seems like an unsung hero as far as speaking for women having a voice, and to be courageous and brave and putting it out there. But poetry is such a release, to be honest, just like with music. I mean, that's what music is. It's like poetry. It's such a release to just give into, and to let it just flow through you. And I just wonder why she isn't so much more popular or well known as some other literary figures of her time. It just was shocking to me that I'd never heard of her. And she speaks so much power is in her words, so much unapologetic type of power is in her words. And I appreciate her honesty so much. I thank you for that reading.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you for sharing. And just like what you just said, and maybe part of it is her radical, and her revolutionary approach. I admire her strength and her confidence from which she speaks. I read a little bit about her and, her life story. And with all that she's been through, and with all of us, all of the things that we go through as women, being able to pour that into her writing has, what she said, set her free, in being into finding her womanhood, and to, being the powerful woman that she is. Was there anyone else that would like to share any thoughts about that reading?
Yes, Altra, this is Sunny Monk. I want to thank you so much for choosing that piece. I just love being read to, and poetry especially. I think gives us that. It's the only way to have poetry in our lives is to hear it read to you. I also wanted to think back the poem that Nick George read 3 or 4 weeks ago from her about differences. And that was, again, a woman's tone, but extraordinarily powerful and rebellious. But, it's so soft that you don't hear it until the words smack you in the face. So thank you for choosing that. I really, I too, like Wanda, I didn't know much about her, and I just need to find more. Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you for sharing.
I just wanted to say, Altra, that I love the title. Poetry is not a luxury. Indeed, to Wanda's point, that you can fit a lot of words in there. Music is not a luxury. Dance is not a luxury. All the different art forms, and it certainly is true. And I just think that's just the title alone is very thought-provoking. Excellent choice.
She talked a lot about feelings and the importance of being connected to your feelings. And I think that for me, it really resonated because with all of the standards and all of the societal pressures put on a woman and what it means to be a woman in society, she's absolutely right. I mean, we are, our feelings are kindly pardoned to the side for the sake of, moving forward in life and just getting things done. And I think just taking a moment to pause and reflect on that, it made me think like, wow, am I connected to how things make me feel? Do I make decisions in my life based on my feelings and, and my intrinsic desires? Or am I just going through some motions in all of the roles that I'm made to play? And so for me, that's where I took a little moment of reflection, because we all need to just have a moment of peace and just connect with our feelings, so that we can show up better and more powerfully and more confident in the world as women. I also like the part where she mentioned, as women, we have a duty to teach that to the little girls who we influence. I'm trying to go back to the page where she said that. Okay, yes. She said, they cannot live, our children cannot live unless they dream, and they cannot dream unless those lives are nourished. And who else will feed them the real food without which their dreams will be no different from ours? And that is the job of a woman. Who else will teach our little girls to go for it, to reach for their dreams, to try harder, work harder, that you can be anything, that you can do anything? And so we all have that duty, once we know this, to pay it forward to the future generation as well. And so does anyone else have anything they would like to add?
Just to your point that you were just making, I'm not going to remember where I heard this, but I heard someone say one time that often we as adults, when we approach young girls, the first thing we say is we compliment them on their dress or on their hair or how pretty they are, and it was a chance to, I guess, encouraging people wherever I heard it from. The encouragement was to, instead of just focusing solely on looks, even though that's fine to do, but it was just like, how about asking her, what did she learn today? What's her favorite book? How's her math class going? And I thought that was so, it reminded me of that when you were just talking about that, about passing it on to the next generation, and how important it is to get our young girls, elevated, I guess, in their thinking, if that's the right way to say it. But so thank you so much. Do you have another excerpt for us you're going to read? I hope so.
I did not have another.
Okay.
That I was just going to stick to that one because I know it's Poetry Month and it was about women. So I just wanted to stick to that one. She has,
fantastic.
I will give a little insight into the rest of the book. There are several chapters in this book, all with their own, little topic that she wanted to address. And so it's very different, but I felt that this one would just resonate better with us during this month that we're celebrating here.
Very, very excellent choice. Does anyone else have any questions that they want to ask or anything like that? I personally, Altra, I hope you're going to write your own book of short stories about teaching every subject to elementary school kids. I have no doubt that would be thoroughly entertaining.
It's good. It's good. One day I can put something in writing.
I appreciate that you chose to highlight women, especially since it's what is it called? National Women's Month, I believe it is. And so I thought the reading was really fitting for the time.
Perfect. And I see that we have women mostly on the call tonight, or all women on the call tonight. So it worked out.
Have it. Yeah.
I also, Altra, this is Gloria, your mom. I actually enjoyed the reading. It's not something that I focus on generally, and but I thought the poem or the topic was very relevant, and I just love the way she brought life to words, and using the analogies of like it's the skeleton of who we are, poetry as women. And so I really did enjoy the reading. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you for joining.
Very good. Thank you so much, everybody. And I'll just give one last chance for questions or comments. And without further ado, Altra, thank you so much. That was a wonderful selection, and we so appreciated hearing you and your presence tonight. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so everyone enjoy your evening, and I hope this set you up for a wonderful week this week. So thank you so much.
Thank you.